So every once in a while, a minister writes a sermon, and then the more they think about it, the more they read it, the more they practice it at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you suddenly realize that some people might experience those words quite differently than what you first intended when you wrote the sermon title, The Gifts That Matter Most. And so I want to just be clear that we're going to be exploring hunger for more material things than we need, and not about a hunger for the justice, equity, and access to the resources that we deserve by nature of us being human, being alive. I'm happy with what I have. A decade ago, this very week in fact, I heard a story on NPR. It touched my heart then, and it's really stuck with me ever since. I think about it often, especially in the holiday season, especially when I feel that inevitable pull to get caught up in the commercialism and consumption that so successfully permeates Christmas time. These were the words of Marianne Bachletter, a retired corporate banker in San Francisco. I'm a docent at the California Academy of Sciences. A few weeks ago, I was visiting with this lovely family at the Academy's Swamp exhibit. Their young son was just fascinated by the albino alligator and asked many, many, many questions about him. As the family was leaving, I asked the boy if he'd like a sticker to put on his shirt. He quickly chose the alligator sticker. The boy's younger brother spent time going through all the sticker choices, one by one, by one, by one, before choosing a butterfly. The boy who had chosen first then said softly to his father, "I didn't see the frog sticker. I would have chosen the frog." His father immediately urged the boy to ask me for a second sticker. The boy said, "No, I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy with what I have." Such wisdom, grace, and gratitude, all from an 8-year-old boy. Too often, we forget to be happy with what we have. And in our forgetfulness, we spread the infection of discontent. A while ago, I received a phone call from a friend, Alejandro, and he was struggling. Times were tough financially, as they are for many of us, and Christmas for his kids was going to be spare at best. Alejandro said that for the first time, he realized that this is the way it is for many, many people in this country every year, including some of us here today. Alejandro went on to say, "How do I give my kids a Merry Christmas when all they see around them on TV and TikTok and Target is the idea that you have to have more to be happy? My kids' friends all want the latest model iPhone, the newest video game for Xbox or PlayStation, the hottest North Face puffer, or those crazy-priced $165 Air Jordan sneakers that every teenage boy seems to crave. That ain't gonna happen this year, or next year for that matter. We just can't afford it. We probably never could. How is it possible?" Alejandro asked. to have a Merry Christmas when nothing is ever enough. Marianne Bachletter echoed this on that radio program 10 years ago, saying, "I recently purchased a new laptop computer. In discussions with the salesperson, he casually said, 'Well, within 2 years, you'll probably want a new one anyway.' Why would I want a new one if my old one was working? Wouldn't I be happy with what I have?" Perhaps want is the key word. I won't necessarily need a new laptop in 2 years, but I probably will want one. Marianne Bachletter continues, "All consumerism, all advertising is based on the assumption that we are not happy with what we have, or if we are happy, that we can be made unhappy by dangling something shiny in front of us." A poet friend of mine says, "In days past, the word consumption was used to describe tuberculosis, a wasting away of the body. Today, consumption is a wasting away of the spirit. We need to protect ourselves against this spirit sickness, this constant lack of thankfulness. We may want shiny things, but we don't need them. What we do desperately need is the peace of mind found in moments of contentment and gratitude. We need to identify each of our wildcat urges to purchase or possess as either want or need. Our needs are basic, predictable, manageable. Our wants are chaotic changelings, disturbers of the peace that can never be satisfied. So ask, do we live primarily from our needs or from our wants? For some of us, our needs are foremost in our mind as we just try to hold on, to make ends meet, to pay the rent or make the mortgage payment, to afford the groceries, the electric bill. For others of us, the basics are pretty well covered. But in either case, what are your wants? The wants that might be pulling us off balance and disturbing our peace. In a wonderful poem entitled "Mind Wanting More," poet Holly Hughes writes, "The mind always wants more than it has. One more bright day of sun, one more clear night in bed with the moon, one more hour to get the words right, one more chance for the heart in hiding to emerge from its thicket in dried grasses, as if this quiet day with its tentative light weren't enough, as if joy wasn't strewn all around." At a church that I previously served as minister, I received an email from a parent who lived in the town where our church was located, a town whose residents were predominantly white and economically privileged. This is the email that they sent me, and I share it with permission. "Dear Tim, here in the culture of this town, there will never be enough. There will never be enough toys and material goods, but also never enough activities, enough grades and exceptional achievements to get into a good college, enough friends, enough money, enough attention, enough love, enough anything. The email continued, 24 access to almost everything and a child culture where parents give their young kids almost anything they want. I really believe that nothing will ever feel like enough. Trying to create boundaries or help kids to make choices and set priorities will draw resistance because so few people do it. But if there is never a sense of enough because people are focusing on their wants and not their needs, what does that bode for the future? We've lost something in the years since my dad was growing up in the Great Depression. At Christmas, about 90 years ago, he was thrilled to just have friends and one slingshot that he could share among them. My dad was truly excited to find an orange and 2 pennies in his Christmas stocking, the only orange he would have all year. As were many Americans living in the deep Great Depression. The holiday focus back then for my dad was family and friends, being together, singing carols together, going to Christmas Eve service together, and of course, eating together, even if the meal was just cabbage and mushroom stew, as it often was for my dad and his family's Christmas meal. So I wonder, how do we cultivate that simple attitude of gratitude? No matter our economic reality, scarce or plenty, how do we raise our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren in our current world of perpetual longing? How do we protect our spirit, our soul, our precious inner self when mass consciousness gorges itself on the idea that newer is best? How do we unplug from the greed grid and become grateful for what we do have? Richard S. Gilbert writes, "Gifts that matter have no weight. They are without substance. Gifts that matter most are given to us by life in grace. Moonlight on the bare winter tree branch, frost delicately etched on a window pane, crackling fireside, bright because of who is there, reunion of those long separated, memories of Christmas past, gone but not forgotten, anticipations of the new year yet to be, the gift of life itself. Gifts that have no weight." How do we cultivate this kind of consciousness? How do we cultivate this type of mindful, appreciative awareness? These aren't easy questions with ready answers. These are questions we need to wrestle with and live into. My dear ones, we may not be able to change the culture around us, but we might be able to transform the attitude within us. Perhaps, as Marianne Backletter suggested, the starting point is to tend to our needs and whittle away our wants. Would you be willing to say that with me? The starting point is to tend our needs and whittle away our wants. And just one more time. The starting point is to tend our needs and whittle away our wants. Perhaps then we might be able to truthfully say, I'm happy with what I have. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so, blessed be, amen.